Okay, so I'm back with another accent feedback video, this time for an A1 learner of French. They made their post in English, so I'm going to obviously give this feedback here in English. And disclaimer, I'm not a native French speaker, but I have been learning French for quite some time, and I did some pre-listening, and I think there's some pointers I can give you. So let's jump right into it.
Le chat. Le chat est enfilant.
Okay, so off the bat, with that word is, right, est, that's going to be pronounced e. But something you are doing, which I think is interesting, is you're doing the liaison, in the sense that if you did have a word which ended in a z sound, like I'm struggling to think of an example, and then you have a word after that that starts with a vowel, you will have the you'll have that liaison where the z kind of the s carries over, right? And you're kind of doing that here. Unfortunately, you're not allowed to do that here because the word is pronounced e, right? However, you can do a liaison with the t, so you can say le chat est un félin. So, yeah. And let's go back.
Le chat. Le chat est enfilant.
Okay, and I'm also kind of hearing filin instead of fait. I'm hearing i on that vowel, the first vowel of félin. I'm hearing filin, but we want félin. So perhaps if you are a native English speaker, right, you're thinking of the feline, right? But here we want félin.
Est enfilant. Il mange de la viande.
Okay, and then on the d, right? So on that, we want the same vowel that you'd expect in English, the d. Il mange de la viande. Instead of, I'm kind of thinking, I think it was d.
Il mange de la viande.
Right, d. And in general, all these, like le, de, re, these two-letter either words or morphemes in French that have a consonant and then e without the accent aigu, without the acute accent. You're gonna have a schwa, the sound. So de, le, and so on and so forth.
Il mange de la viande.
Okay, and it also sounds like you're making the last syllable on viande silent, or the last consonant, sorry. It sounds like you're doing that intentionally, perhaps because you're familiar with how many word final consonants in French are not going to be pronounced right. Like you were saying le chat, which is correct instead of like le chat or something like that. However, right, a general rule is if there is an e at the end of a word, you generally pronounce the preceding consonant. I don't believe that's always true, but that's a good general rule. So because we have an e here, we'd want the la viande. I mean, you don't have, I was over exaggerating, but la viande, right? We want the D to be pronounced there. So we'll go back.
Mange de la viande.
Right. So il mange de la viande.
C'est un carnivore.
Okay. I'm kind of hearing like carnivore.
C'est un carnivore.
Like carnivore. I'm not really hearing much of the R sound. You don't have to make it super exaggerated, but you kind of want like an English H, but a little harsher. So it's going to be a little also harsher than, say, like a Spanish ha ha. We want a ha in French, like a carnivore. So I'm kind of hearing just carnivore almost. I'm not hearing any of that R. So c'est un carnivore. And you can, I don't know if the liaison's mandatory here with c'est and un. I don't know if you have to say c'est un, but to me it seems more natural to say c'est un carnivore instead of c'est un carnivore.
Un carnivore. Le petit du chat. Le petit du chat s'appelle le chat.
Okay, and then on the appel, I'm kind of hearing like s'appelle almost.
Le petit du chat s'appelle.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling like s'appelle, but we want appel, s'appelle. Le petit du chat s'appelle.
Du chat s'appelle le chaton.
Okay, I think that's fine, yeah.
Quand le chat est content. Il ronronne.
Okay. It sounds like
Il ronronne.
you're doing the I think it's called the guttural trill, I believe. I'm kind of hearing a r, which I believe is more associated with like kind of older variations of French, like literally like from many decades ago. Um, though oddly enough, there were times in school where I was taught to do that, but I haven't met that many people nowadays who speak like that. So I would suggest the same thing I said before, and it's quite similar to the guttural trill. In my opinion, it's easier. Instead of going r, you just go ch, right? Il ronronne. But yeah, otherwise that sounds fine.
Le chat est un gros.
Okay, there I'm kind of feeling the sha almost instead of sha. The vowel just sounds a bit off to me, but it was fine before, so just kind of do what you're doing before with that.
Le chat est un gros dommage.
Right, and then there I'm kind of hearing the same R, I guess, issues that I was hearing with carnivore, where I'm kind of hearing like dommeur almost.
Is un gros dommage.
Like dommeur. So I think the vowel quality is there, or and but I'm just not hearing enough of the R. I'm kind of hearing like dommeur, almost as if the R's were not there, and when we'd want like dommeur, or something along those lines.
Il pleut.
All right, and then small thing there, right? EU here we want e. Is that always the case? I'm not sure, but at least on this word we want peu, il peut, instead of I forgot what you said.
Il pleut.
Il pleut, yeah. So we'd expect that if it was like pu, which is the past participle of pouvoir, I think. But yeah, so we want peu instead of pu.
Il pleut. Dommage.
All right, and then same thing as before. But also I think here the vowel sounds a little off, where we want ir on the second syllable, dormir.
Dommage. C'est pas jour.
Okay, and then, right, this thing I was talking about before with word final consonants, or I guess they're not word final, but consonants towards the end of the word followed by an E, right? So in the word says, because we have that E at the end of the word, you can think to yourself, oh, I'll apply the rule and I'll pronounce the Z or the Z, whatever you want to call it. So we want says instead of se. So we want says.
C'est
Okay, and then on this heure and par.
C'est pas jour.
Right, I'm just kind of hearing like a silent R, like par jour almost. When we want heure par jour. Of course, if you're speaking quickly, yeah, some of these sounds get dropped, right? But especially with the rate that you're speaking right now, I'd expect those to all be realized fully. And yeah, and I think again, when like learning a language, I think it's fine to over-exaggerate certain sounds and then tone it back afterwards instead of not having them there to begin with, right?
C'est pas jour.
Right, and also on jour. Yeah, so right in this case, that the R is one of those sounds, or the R at the end of words tends to not get silenced. So right in the case of par, the R is there, and in the case of jour, even though it ends with S, right, because most consonants get dropped at the end of the word, we drop that S, but we do pronounce the R, so it'd be heure par jour. So yeah, what I'll do here is I'll just read through the passage briefly, and again, my pronunciation's not going to be perfect, but I think it should give you a decent a decent reference in case you don't get a recording from a native speaker on this passage. Okay, so le chat. Le chat est un félin. Il mange de la viande. C'est un carnivore. Le petit du chat s'appelle le chaton. Quand le chat est content, il ronronne. Le chat est un gros dormeur. Il peut dormir 16 heures par jour. So, that's kind of in the ballpark of what I think you should kind of look towards. Yeah, though overall, it seems like you don't struggle that much with the vowels, which is good because French vowels are notoriously bizarre, kind of irrespective of what your native language is. And I don't know what your native language is. And so that's good. And it seems like you do understand many of the fundamental rules that you're going to encounter when you're going from, when you're trying to go from reading to speaking, right? When you're trying to pronounce these words, you seem to know, the concept of like dropping certain final consonants and stuff like that. So that's very good. And hopefully this was helpful. And yeah, good luck on your French learning journey.